Hello everyone and welcome. My name is Elena, lecturer in creative writing and screenwriting. Over the course of 10 intensive sessions, I will guide you from the very basics of storytelling all the way to advanced professional mastery. In this program, we won't waste time on dry theories or rigid formulas. Instead, our learning will be rooted in powerful living stories. For our first session, we'll begin with a fundamental question: why do we tell stories? To answer this, we'll analyze the work of contemporary author Stefan Afshar, Rubin's Nightmare and the Echoes of the Past, a fascinating blend of psychological suspense and literary mystery. By the end of today's lesson, you will understand the three essential functions of storytelling: entertainment, captivating and releasing emotion; instruction, teaching, warning, and passing down wisdom; identity, shaping who we are individually and collectively. So let's begin this journey together, 10 sessions, that will transform the way you understand and create stories. Rubin's Nightmare and the Echoes of the Past. Rubin, a man in his early 30s, found himself entrapped within the abyssal darkness of a nightmare. There, a hag-like crone, her face a parchment of deep-etched wrinkles, loomed over him in the suffocating blackness. Her eyes, large and bulging, brimmed with a palpable, malevolent hatred. Her trembling, skeletal hands reached out, brandishing an iron claw, superheated to a searing, white-hot intensity. The incandescent metal seemed to kiss his flesh, eliciting cries of profound terror that erupted from the very core of his being. A narrow, lightless corridor appeared to drag him inexorably toward a hellish unknown, each forced step plunging him deeper into the abyss of dread. The gentle murmur of his wife's voice finally coaxed him back from the clutches of that terrifying nightmare. A cold sweat beaded on his forehead, and his heart hammered within his chest like a frantic war drum. His gaze drifted to the faded scars upon his hands, pale testaments left by countless nights haunted by such visions. These nightmares had been his unwavering companions since the very dawn of his life, embracing him in their chilling grip every single night. "My dear, you had the nightmare again?" Anna, his kind and loving wife, enfolded him in her embrace. Rubin swallowed with difficulty, his throat feeling constricted. "I wish it would end. Anna, it feels as though these nightmares will never relinquish their hold on me. Why does that old woman always seek to inflict harm upon me?" He did not utter the Turkish words that clung to his mind from the dream. They felt like fragmented pieces of a dark secret buried deep within his past, and speaking them aloud to Anna felt akin to drawing her into the suffocating darkness of his own torment. Yet the sight of the faint but undeniable burn marks upon his hands lent a disturbing weight to the nightmares, suggesting they were not merely phantoms of his imagination, but rather echoes of a forgotten reality etched into his very being. Anna placed her hand gently over the faint scars on Rubin's hand, her fingers softly tracing the pale lines on his skin. Her voice was calm and thoughtful. "Rubin, do you know what these marks, what they are from?" Rubin took a deep breath, his gaze fixed intently on his hands. "So many times, countless times, my parents were questioned about these marks by the police and school officials. They wanted to be sure it wasn't a sign of child abuse. I remember their worried, weary faces, the repeated probing questions. But it always remained an ambiguous point, a secret veiled in impenetrable mystery." His tone grew tinged with bitterness. "My parents, they always said it happened because I was playing with fire as a child. An accident, a childish prank that left its indelible trace forever." But his voice softened immediately, as if he didn't want to cast a negative light upon his parents. "But Anna, I have absolute..." Anna sighed, a profound weariness in her voice. "But I can't be calm. I'm still haunted by that harrowing trip to Pakistan." Her eyes met his, pleading for him to grasp the depth of her fear. The memory of Rubin nearly being buried alive there, escaping by the narrowest of margins, was a phantom that refused to leave Anna's tormented thoughts. Rubin stepped closer and pressed a tender kiss to her forehead. "Don't worry, everything will be fine." He attempted to project unwavering confidence, but a flicker of the old dread from that incident still lurked within him. Rubin emerged from the bathroom, a towel wrapped around his waist, steam rising from his dark, tousled hair. He dressed in a crisp suit and an immaculately ironed shirt. His gaze lingered once more on the faint burn marks on his hand, then drifted to his reflection in the mirror, as if searching for answers hidden within his own features. He was ready for the company, the unveiling at the company meeting. Rubin, in the staff break room, was sharing coffee and quiet camaraderie with his colleagues. The bitter, comforting aroma of the coffee and the low murmur of conversations filled the air. Everyone was discussing today's meeting, but no one knew its topic. A ripple of curiosity passed through their expressions. A short while later, Salvador, the company president, entered. His tall stature and grave demeanor immediately shifted the atmosphere, settling a hush over the room. He looked around and, with a voice that always carried a mix of respect and authority, inquired about the well-being of his employees. Rubin set his coffee cup on the table and asked, "Salvador, what's the meeting about today?" "No one seems to know." Salvador smiled, a rare sight. "Roland, a close friend of mine, requested this meeting. He asked that my best employees be present." As Salvador spoke, Roland, a man in an expensive suit with a shrewd, calculating face who dealt in antiques and possessed his own private collection, entered with 3 of his employees. After the initial pleasantries, Roland and Salvador headed to Salvador's office to begin their private discussion. Roland's employees joined Rubin and his colleagues. Maria, a young, energetic woman with bright eyes, spoke excitedly about an upcoming trip, as if their destination were a lost paradise. Her gaze met Rubin's, and she offered a smile, a hint of curiosity sparkling in her eyes. The owl woman, nightmare manifested. Rubin's brow furrowed in skepticism. He harbored doubts about Roland's secret adventure, not just because of the inherent dangers, but due to the very nature of the work itself. "This is exceptionally complicated work," he interjected, his voice firm and unwavering. "It requires specialized experts, not just a few good men. Our company's expertise lies in buying and selling antiques from intermediaries, illegal excavators and smugglers. We have no practical experience in field work." He looked at Salvador and then at Roland. "And now we hear we have to go to a completely unknown foreign country and excavate there illegally? This isn't logical. The risks far outweigh the potential profit." Roland, seemingly unfazed by Rubin's skepticism, merely pulled out his phone. A quick call, and a short while later, 2 elderly Turkish men entered the office, accompanied by a translator. Their faces were weathered, etched with the lines of countless suns and ancient wisdom. Their eyes held a deep, almost mystical knowledge. "These gentlemen," Roland announced, gesturing towards them, "can assist us with the excavation. They are from the region where our treasure is believed to be hidden." The elder Turks, through their translator, spoke in hushed, serious tones, their voices raspy with age. "We can guide you to the site, and we can help with the digging." The translator relayed their words, his own expression turning solemn. "But you must understand the dangers that surround it. The land holds old spirits." Analysis of Rubin's nightmare and the echoes of the past for advanced storytelling instruction. The provided text is a rich and highly effective piece for teaching advanced narrative techniques, particularly in the genres of psychological thriller and mystery. Its structure, use of suspense elements, and subtle character depth make it an excellent case study for aspiring writers. 1. The opening hook and establishing suspense. Instructional focus, how to immediately hook the reader and establish foundational questions. The text utilizes a strong, impactful opening in medias res by plunging straight into the heart of the protagonist Rubin's nightmare. This opening achieves 3 crucial narrative goals: immediate establishment of tone and atmosphere. The use of words like abyssal darkness, hag-like crone, and the specific visceral detail of the superheated to a searing, white-hot intensity iron claw instantly places the reader in a realm of psychological horror. Introduction of the central mystery, the nature of the nightmare and its connection to the iron claw and Turkish words immediately pose a major question to the reader: why is this happening? Bridging the dream and reality, the swift transition to the waking world with a mention of faded scars upon his hands connects the ethereal terror to a physical reality. This link between illusion and tangible evidence is the core engine of suspense in the first section. Student exercise. Ask students to rewrite this opening section, but eliminate the dream sequence. Can they generate the same level of urgency and suspense using only the description of the scars and the morning conversation? 2. Characterization and the role of the companion Anna. Instructional focus, using secondary characters to advance the plot and reveal the depth of the protagonist. The character of Anna is not just a concerned wife. She is the story's catalyst and the voice of reason. Character contrast. Anna's calm and affectionate demeanor enfolded him in her embrace, sharply contrasts with Rubin's distress and constriction, throat feeling. Constricted. This contrast highlights the intensity of Rubin's suffering and the depth of their relationship. Activating the search, Anna is the one who pushes Rubin to stop, fleeing the nightmares, and instead try to follow these spectral clues. She articulates the story's core hypothesis that these signs are not that meaningless, and defines a new goal for Rubin, finding the answers to gain release. This moves the narrative from a static situation, repeating nightmares, to a proactive quest. Strategic information. Delivery. The dialogue between Anna and Rubin naturally reveals all the key backstory elements, the frequency of the nightmares, the Turkish words, the childhood scars, the parents' ambiguous lie about playing with fire without resorting to an exposition dump. Student exercise. Remove Anna's role. How would Rubin come to the conclusion that he needs to investigate the nightmares himself? How much slower and less empathetic would the story be without her? 3. Creating subtext and ambiguity. Instructional focus. Writing dialogue that conceals something, rather than merely revealing it. The story consistently builds moral and psychological ambiguity. The parents' lie, the parents' claim of an accident, a childish prank, and Rubin's subsequent defense of them. I have absolutely no ill or negative memories of my parents. Create a deep contradiction. This suggests the buried secret might be darker than initially thought. Were the parents protecting him? Or were they part of the mystery? This layer complicates Rubin's character and engages the reader. The Turkish words. Rubin concealing these words from Anna, he did not utter the Turkish words, signals a deep fear about the secret's nature. This is a crucial information seed planted for later growth. The new nightmare scene. The description of the alley scene with ragged children throwing stones at an old woman introduces a moral complexity. Was 6-year-old Rubin a victim? Or was he participating in the violence against the crone? This ambiguity expands the mystery from a personal secret to a potential historical cultural incident. 4. Integrating career and theme. Instructional focus, tying the protagonist's skills and profession to the main plotline. In the second section, Rubin's profession, antiques, dealer, is skillfully woven into the narrative fabric. Hidden skills. The mention of him being a marshal, artist, and his boss's trusted confidant and protector establishes a powerful Chekhov's gun. These skills are essential for the story's second half, the journey and illegal excavation, and assure the reader they will be utilized later. Forced journey, the international trip for antiques, and Anna's palpable worry about the harrowing trip to Pakistan heighten the tension and provide a physical, high-stakes setting for the search for answers. Internal conflict, Rubin's skepticism regarding Roland's secret adventure, the risks far outweigh the potential profit, demonstrates a professional and ethical conflict that makes his character three-dimensional. He is not just following orders. He is a discerning professional who weighs the risks. 5. The inciting incident in the workplace. Instructional focus, how to make the plot jump from a state of waiting for action to beginning the action. The introduction of Roland and the 2 elderly Turkish men serves as a powerful plot point at the close of the excerpt. Geographical overlap. The destination of the trip, an illegal excavation in a completely unknown foreign country, likely Turkey or a region of Turkish influence, directly converges with Rubin's past clues, Turkish words, and the arrival of the elderly Turkish men. The crone manifested, the owl woman. The chapter title, The Owl Woman Nightmare Manifested, immediately signals that the mystery of the dream is about to enter reality. Confirmation of threat, the presence of the 2 older Turkish men who are there to assist with the digging confirms that Rubin's adventure is no longer just a job, but a hero's journey to confront a past that has imposed itself upon him through a dangerous professional assignment. This short text is a practical lesson in structuring psychological mystery narratives, demonstrating how to seamlessly braid multiple timelines, past, scars, and dreams, present, relationship with Anna, future, the journey, and investigation, and keep the reader intensely engaged. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our first session on creative storytelling. I'm incredibly excited to be here with you. Over the next few weeks, we're not just going to study stories. We're going to learn the craft of building worlds and shaping meaning through the power of narrative. Today, we're starting with a foundational yet profound question. Session 1, why do we tell stories? To kick off our discussion, I want you to look at the text I provided. Rubin's nightmare and the echoes of the past. This is an excerpt from a longer narrative, and it's rich with elements that highlight the core functions of storytelling. We're going to use this text to explore the fundamental role of narrative in human life and history, the role of story in human life and history. Why do we, as a species, rely on stories so much? The answer can be broken down into 3 main interconnected functions, all of which are illustrated in the provided text. 1. Story as entertainment and catharsis. At its most basic level, a good story is engaging. It captures our attention, creates tension, and makes us feel. Analysis from the text. The opening paragraph is a masterclass in building dread and terror for the reader. Rubin, a man in his early 30s, found himself entrapped within the abyssal darkness of a nightmare, establishes a terrifying setting. Her eyes, large and bulging, brimmed with a palpable, malevolent hatred, creates a powerful evil antagonist. Her trembling, skeletal hands reached out, brandishing an iron claw superheated to a searing, white-hot intensity, uses vivid, sensory detail to describe the threat. The function. The story of Rubin's nightmare is, for the reader, a thrilling, scary experience. For Rubin himself, the nightmare is a repeated, psychological experience, a form of catharsis, a purging of emotions, or in his case, torment. A story's primary role is to entertain, to distract, or to provide an emotional release through the simulated experience of fear, joy, or tragedy. 2. Story as instruction and warning, the didactic function. Stories are ancient tools for passing down knowledge, morals, and warnings without needing a dry textbook. They make complex ideas memorable. Analysis from the text. Look at the interaction between Rubin and Anna. Anna says, if this nightmare happened just once, we could dismiss it as a fleeting delusion. But when it comes to you night after night, year after year, it can't just be a meaningless occurrence. She then instructs him, instead of being paralyzed by fear by these nightmares and wanting to flee from their grasp, why don't you try to follow these spectral clues? Maybe by finding the answers to these questions, the nightmares will finally release their oppressive grip on you. The function. Anna's words turn Rubin's torment into a quest. She is articulating the didactic function of his own story. The past, when unexamined, will continue to haunt the present. The story is a lesson, a warning that tells Rubin to confront his trauma, the spectral clues, to achieve freedom. In a broader sense, stories teach us how to navigate the world and solve our problems. 3. Story as the foundation of identity and meaning. This is the deepest function. Our sense of self, who we are, where we came from, is built on the stories we tell ourselves and that others tell about us. Stories forge identity for individuals, families, and nations. Analysis from the text. The mystery revolves entirely around Rubin's past and identity, the ambiguity of the scars. His parents offered a story, an accident, playing with fire to explain the scars. This story shielded him from the more troubling truth. The police and school officials questioned this narrative, showing the high stakes of having the correct story. The fragmented truth, the Turkish words, the image of the 6-year-old child in the alley, and the crone-like old woman are all fragmented pieces of a forgotten or repressed origin story. The function. Rubin's life is defined by a gap in his narrative. His nightmares are the repressed story trying to break through. He cannot be whole until he replaces the ambiguous, protective story of the accident with the true, and likely painful, story of his childhood trauma. Storytelling, in this context, is the act of making sense of existence and understanding who we fundamentally are. In summary, stories are not a luxury, they are a necessity. They are the software through which humans process fear, transmit wisdom, and define identity. They allow us to rehearse life's challenges in a safe space and connect us to a past we might not even remember. Your assignment, memoir as storytelling. Now, let's take these concepts and apply them to your own life. For your first short assignment, I want you to write a brief, compelling narrative based on a real event from your past. This isn't just a factual report. This is a short story built around a memory. The prompt: write a short story, approx 250-400 words about a single vivid memory that taught you a significant lesson or marked a shift in your understanding of the world. Focus on these techniques we saw in the Rubin excerpt. Vivid sensory detail. Don't just tell me what happened. Describe the sights, sounds, smells, and internal feelings, e.g., a cold sweat beaded on his forehead. The bitter, comforting aroma of the coffee. Tension and conflict. What was at stake in this memory? What conflict, internal or external, did you face? Thematic resonance. What is the lesson or the identity-defining moment hidden within this memory? This is a fantastic and evocative piece of writing. It provides a rich tapestry of mystery, psychological tension, and hints of a thrilling adventure. The setup with the nightmares, the scars, and the Turkish connection creates a strong foundation for a compelling story. As an expert creative writing instructor, here are 3 high-level exercises for your students based on this text, designed to explore different aspects of narrative craft. Creative writing exercises, Rubin's Nightmare and the Echoes of the Past. Exercise 1. Deepening the emotional core and subtext, the Anna-Rubin dialogue. The prompt, focus on the scene between Rubin and his wife, Anna, after he wakes up from the nightmare. Your task is to rewrite and expand the dialogue where Rubin is describing his nightmare, specifically the moment he mentions the alley, the children, and the old woman. You know, Anna, in most of these nightmares, I see myself in a narrow shadowed alley. My head is gashed. Blood covers my face and drips drop by agonizing drop from my chin. I feel like a 6-year-old child, utterly terrified that I'm about to die. He closed his eyes as if reliving the scene, his voice trembling slightly. In that same alley, I see children, ragged children throwing stones at an old woman, a terrifying crone-like old woman. And that old woman, she's scaring them too, with a face contorted with anger and ear-splitting guttural sounds. Your rewrite must use more descriptive physical actions, gestures, posture, breathing, an internal monologue for both Rubin and Anna to show, not just tell their emotional states. Incorporate the Turkish words that Rubin is suppressing, perhaps as a mumbled sound or a brief, non-translated mention, as a way to escalate the tension he feels when discussing the dream. Increase the subtext in Anna's responses. She shouldn't just be supportive. She should be actively listening and analyzing the elements of the dream, even while trying to comfort him. Rationale and learning goal. This exercise focuses on the power of subtext and showing versus telling in dialogue. The dialogue in the original is functional, but a bit direct. By adding physical and internal details, students learn how to make an emotional scene more visceral. The inclusion of the Turkish words forces them to use a subtle narrative device to signal to the reader and perhaps Anna that a crucial, withheld piece of information exists, deepening the mystery and tension. Exercise 2. Amplifying sensory detail in a thriller scene. The prompt. The description of Rubin's nightmare at the beginning is strong, but a dream sequence in a thriller should be even more terrifying and disorienting. Rewrite the opening paragraph Rubin's nightmare, focusing on maximizing the sensory experience and psychological horror. Rubin, a man in his early 30s, found himself entrapped within the abyssal darkness of a nightmare. There, a hag-like crone, her face a parchment of deep-etched wrinkles, loomed over him in the suffocating blackness. Her eyes, large and bulging, brimmed with a palpable, malevolent hatred. Her trembling, skeletal hands reached out, brandishing an iron claw, superheated to a searing, white-hot intensity. The incandescent metal seemed to kiss his flesh, eliciting cries of profound terror that erupted from the very core of his being. A narrow, lightless corridor appeared to drag him inexorably toward a hellish unknown, each forced step plunging him deeper into the abyss of dread. Your rewrite must employ all 5 senses: sight, sound, touch, smell, and taste, even if a sense like smell is just the metallic tang of blood or ozone. From the hot iron, break down the crone's appearance and actions into more visceral details. Instead of parchment of deep-etched wrinkles, describe the texture and color of her skin. Instead of trembling, skeletal hands. Focus on the sound of the metal claw being dragged or the heat radiating from it. Use fragmented sentences and non-linear pacing to truly capture the chaotic, illogical, and suffocating quality of a nightmare. Rationale and learning goal. This exercise targets sensory writing and pacing. Nightmares and flashbacks in a thriller must be intense to have narrative weight. By forcing students to use all 5 senses and manipulate sentence structure, they learn how to create a highly immersive and claustrophobic atmosphere. It teaches them that in moments of extreme psychological stress, the narrative rules of conventional prose can and should be broken. Exercise 3. Crafting the inciting incident jar foreshadowing beat. The prompt. The story ends abruptly just as the 2 Turkish men are introduced. This is the moment the mystery of the past, the nightmares and scars, is about to collide with the plot of the present, the illegal excavation trip. Your task is to write the next 3 paragraphs. that follow the introduction of the Turkish men, using the translator's words as the catalyst for a shocking realization for Rubin. The elder Turks, through their translator, spoke in hushed, serious tones, their voices raspy with age. "We can guide you to the site, and we can help with the digging," the translator said. "Your continuation must have one of the Turkish men or the translator use one or more of the fragmented pieces of a dark secret. The Turkish words Rubin suppresses, or a specific local name / curse related to the hag-like crone. Describe Rubin's physical and psychological reaction to hearing the word. His past fear must manifest in a physical way, a tremor, a dizziness, a sudden coldness. End with a strong hook, a line of dialogue, or a realization that firmly connects the archaeological site to the terror of his childhood nightmares, turning the business trip into a horrifying personal quest. Rationale and learning goal. This exercise focuses on the concept of the inciting incident and effective foreshadowing. A crucial point in any mystery thriller is the moment the protagonist realizes the external plot is personal. By having the Turkish clue trigger Rubin's memory fear, students learn how to merge plot threads effectively and how to use a specific technical detail, a name, a word, a place, as a powerful emotional catalyst. In today's session, we saw that storytelling is not a luxury but a necessity. Stories entertain us, they teach us, and they shape our identity. These 3 functions will remain the foundation of everything we learn in this course. Your assignment: choose a personal memory and rewrite it as a short story. Use vivid details, build tension, and reveal the deeper meaning behind the memory. In the next session, we will move to the second step of our journey. So if you haven't watched this first episode yet, make sure you do before moving on. Don't forget to subscribe, like the video, and share your exercise with us. Until next time, stay with the power of story.